All right, good morning, class.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning, sir.
Everybody is fine.
Yes, sir. Very well. Say yourself.
I'm good. I'm good.
Thank God.
All right, so today we want to continue with our discussion on database and all the things that comes up to help us. So you've had about 2 weeks break, or last week you had your own discussion and stuff. So we want us to discuss database a bit. What do you have learned so far as a group, as individuals, what you have learned so far, and whatever that you have achieved. So database, last week we started discussing, and then I want us to continue from the database management approach, or how to manage your database. Yeah, so what have you learned so far from last 2 weeks, and then for the rest of the slides? Who can give me a bit of what has gone on through the week? Anybody? So what is the database management software? What is the purpose of the database management software? And why is it relevant? Can you guys hear me? I want someone to do the summary of what we did last week, or last 2 weeks. What we did last 2 weeks. Can you guys hear me?
Yes, sir. So we can hear you.
Hey, you guys are quiet. And I'm more than could Easter. So
Yes, sir.
yes, sir.
Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon, Sulemana.
Yes, sir. So, sir, a recap of what we did the other time
Yes.
on the database management system, how we use database to collect, store information that helps us in planning, coordinating, and implementing operational activities at various levels, be at the schools, hospitals, national level, and for economic purposes. And then we went on to do the relationship like how we did one lecturer to many students and staff. So data is very key in our everyday life. And in just yesterday, I saw the communication ministry with their innovation and other stuff. They did some AI tools that a robot, in fact, was controlled to bring a document to the president to do the inauguration or commissioning to that effect. So data is very key and it helps us a lot in our daily life. Thank you, sir.
Wonderful. Beautiful. Thank you very much. Yes, who can also? The ladies. The ladies in our class. Anything to add up? Oh,
Yes, sir. So I think power outages is affecting most of our people
oh, oh,
because of the
oh.
plan. This thing, most of them they put it that they are running out of power on their laptops and phones, sir.
Oh, okay.
I believe they will be back, sir.
All right. That's
Yes,
fine.
sir.
Okay. All right. So we've been discussing about database and data management, and we realized that managing data in an organization is very key to the success of every organization. All right, and therefore it is very, very important that we manage this data so we can be able to use the data for decision making, for providing better services for our customers and all that. So it is very good that we have what we call a database, which is the central or the pivot of every information system. To have an effective information system, there must be a database, a repository, a record center, where we keep all the records of the activities that goes on, or the activities that go on within our business environment. Probably transactions, admissions, payment, customers records, customers location. All this must be located somewhere. So at any point in time when we need such information, we can quickly go in there and get access to that information. So that is basically what we are trying to understand and what we are trying to follow up and see how best we can be able to build.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, so basically that is what we've been discussing, and then we went through to discuss the definition of database. And database has what we call hierarchy, from the lowest to the highest, from bits to bytes to bytes, which is character, to fields, to records, to tables or files, and then database, right? And each of them contributes something to achieving what we call the database. Right? So you need to keep these things in mind. In exams, you can easily be asked to explain the hierarchy of a data, right, in a database. You understand? And
Yes,
you have to be able to. Suleiman, I want to ask a question.
No, sir, I'm just acknowledging, sir.
Yes. So that is basically what comes into add up to form a data. Yes, Festus.
All right. Thank you, sir.
Thank
Sir,
you.
please, the video of last 2 weeks, we couldn't got access to it. Some of us, we couldn't get full glimpse of last 2 weeks lectures. I don't know if we can get it after this lecture.
The video, the recording.
Yes, sir.
All right. So
The recording.
we need to talk to. Don't you guys have it? The whole class, please.
It's been uploaded first, so it's on YouTube.
Please.
On YouTube, eh?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Thank you, sir.
Yes, sir. All right. So that is basically database, and then the breakdowns and stuff. And we did indicate that the common or the most common type of database that is used in most organizations today is what we call the relational database, which is a two-dimensional form of database where we have table A, table B, and there must be a relationship between table A and table B to link up. I understand. And most organizations are using the relational database. So most of our discussion is on relational database, where there's supposed to be a relationship between this and then that to create a bigger table, or to separate table A from table B, or to get information from table A to create a new table and all that. All right. And we try to speak about the relationship that exists between tables, the cardinalities, which is one-to-one relationship, one-to-many relationship, many-to-many relationships, and all that. So we gave several examples last week to demonstrate what happens. A lecturer can take more than one course. A lecturer can also choose not to take any course at all, which is optional. So optionality also exists in a database. So wherever we see 0 or O, it means it's optional. There might be no activity ongoing. Where we see 1, it means it has one and only one activity happening at that time. where we see the crowns feet, then it means many or several activities or actions are taking place at a time. So a lecturer can take more than one course. A student can take more than as many as 5 courses per semester. You get it? All right, so today we want to continue to talk about how do we manage this database. You understand? So last week, I don't know whether I discussed or I explained the previous type of database or records keeping or data keeping, which is file processing. Did I mention that?
No, sir. I don't think so.
No, sir.
All right, so previously, companies or organization or department were creating records and they were using what we call the file processing system. So that is before database came into existence. We used to have what we call the file processing system. So the file processing system basically is a type of data management approach where each unit within the organization, so for instance GCTU has different units. They have the accounting with computing unit or department, we have the procurement department, we have the transport department, we have this department, we have that department, we have all that departments, right? We have the maths department, we have engineering, we have all those. So each department creates records of their customers or of their employees within the department. So let's take procurement department. They have a code for all their students. They use P0, then they add the number P01, P02, P03 for their student for procurement or procurement knowledge. So they use PL1, PL2 for all the students. And then when we go to transport, they also create their records and they use T1, T2, T3, T4 for all their students. You understand? So that is the file processing. So each department, and they have their own software that they use. So when you go to procurement, they have their own software. Their software does not work with the software that transport unit is also using, or transport department is using, or accounting department is using. Their software is different from the accounting with computing student or department. So at the end of the day, when we want to have a common place where we want to have all our students on one platform, it becomes difficult for us to link the records together. Integration was a challenge. Duplication becomes a common place because one student, we can create more than 10 records about one student in our system, because the student at the finance department has a different code or index number or ID number. At the admission department, has a different ID number. At the department he or she belongs to, he has a different ID number. So how do we integrate? And so duplication becomes an issue. Integration becomes, so there's no standardization. There's no standardization, integration, duplication, redundancy, and all that. So there was the need for department to have one common platform where all the records will be saved and we can easily access. That was when database came in. So database came in to resolve the issues that comes with what? The file processing systems. All right. And for us to be able to integrate these softwares, different softwares that are used by different departments to be able to work on one platform, we needed to have what we call the database management system software. So the management system, the database management system software is a platform, or it's a center that is able to link all the activity that goes on within the organization on one common platform. So it doesn't matter the software you are using or the program you are using at your department. The moment you go on the database, you should be able to submit your information or your data and you are supposed to be able to access the data. So the database management system software, it's basically like an interface. You understand? In the olden terms, you will say betweener, intermediary. If you remember high school, there's a betweener, somebody who stands between you and then either your girlfriend or you and your boyfriend. Without that person, you can't see your girlfriend. That is how the database management system works. Without that, you cannot be able to access the database. So multiple information systems share a pool of what? Related data, as we are saying. And then the database management system software is a group of programs that are provided by the database management system suppliers. So they provide these platforms where we can be able to integrate pools of what? Data on one common platform for easy access and then easy use. So the programs are used to access and then manage our database, as I did mention. And they also provide an interface between the database and then the users of that database and then the other application programs that we use. So a database management system is a group of programs that are used as an interface between the database that we have, right? The database which contains different data coming from the different units of the organization, and then the different application programs that were used to generate this data. So there are programs that integrate these things together or create an interface between these two, the database and then the programs that we use, and then the users who are going to access this database, whether they are students, whether they are customers, whether they are employees, whether they are the managers of the organization. They are the users of this system. So there are different types of this database management systems. MS Access, which we will be doing next semester. We will be having that next semester. MS Access, SQL, Service, Oracle, MySQL, NoSQL. These are all different types of database management systems that are used to provide a platform for us to access and then run our database. What are some of the capabilities and types of database systems? They help you to create and then modify the database. So whenever you want to make a change, you want to bring a change in your database, it is the work of the database management system to help you to be able to create the database and also make a change. The index numbers you entered, there are mistakes. You can easily go in there and make those changes, and automatically the changes will be reflected in our system. All right. All right. So the second thing is it helps us to be able to store and then retrieve data. So when we want to store data in our database, it is the database management software or system that helps us to store. So there are new students who have been added to the university. We want to store their records in our database. The database management system will help us to be able to store. We want to retrieve procurement students, level 100 procurement students, January intake. We will be able to retrieve their records from the system or from the database. We want to manipulate the data and then generate report. We want to just have a few students, maybe all the male students in the procurement class. We should be able to manipulate the database and then generate that report for whoever that needs that report. So that is some of the capabilities of. So this is what we have been explaining here. So the user is here. It can be you as a student, and then you want some report. You want to get access to your first semester exams from the university database. All right. You want to get a report of the papers you wrote from the database, because the database contains all the exams that were written, but you just need information about you. and you are using your own laptop or your own machine, whatever, whether your phone or your laptop, the programs that you are using might be different from what someone else will be using to access the database or will use to access the database. Right? So you are the user, you want to go inside the database. The database is very far from you, where the database is. And the database is made up of several things: student records, employee records, payroll, school fees paying, who is owing something, what we have in the school, what everything is inside the database. So the database management system is sitting here as the betweener. You see, the payroll has its own program or software that is used. The invoicing has its own software. The inventory has its own software. The management has its own software. So there are different softwares, but the database management system link all these softwares together so they can be able to have access to whatever is going on within the database. So that is the work of the database management. So it sits in between all the programs and whatever happens at this end, and then what happens at the database end. Right. So that is the interface. It's acting as an interface or intermediary between the programs, the users, and then the database. Are we here?
Yes,
Yes,
we are
sir.
here.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes,
Yes, sir.
sir.
We are following.
Yes, sir, we are here.
All right.
We
So how do we create a database? So creating database or database activities. How do we create a database? For you to be able to create a database, you need to have what we call the data definition language, the DDL. It's a collection of instructions and then commands that defines and then describe data and the relationship in a specific database. All right. So the data definition language are commands and then comments or instructions or programs that defines and then describe data and then the relationship. So this is the data. What's the relationship between this data and then that data in a database? So here you can see our database. So they have the payroll data, they have the inventory data. So the description, right? What is in this payroll data? What is in the inventory data? It describes whatever is in. So they are the instructions that describe whatever is in our database. So that is how to create our database. And we have what we call the data definition or the dictionary. So the dictionary details description of the data that are stored in our database. So when you look at down here, I have a very nice, the attributes. You all know attributes in database today. You know entity and then you know attribute. When we mention attribute, you know what is an attribute. Entity, you know what's an entity. So attributes are fields and then entities are records. All right. So attribute called the customer number. So that is our database. We want to have information about what maybe Apple. You understand? So a record or records of Apple. So the records is made up of several fields that comes together. So the description, let's describe it. That is the dictionary. So we have the attribute, which is what? Student number of Apple. And then the type, the data type. What type of data is it? Is it a text? The student number, is it a text? Is it numbers? Is it auto numbers? In most cases, whenever we are dealing with customer numbers, customer or student numbers, we mostly use text. Why do we use text? We use text because sometimes some index numbers or staff numbers can be combination of alphabet and numbers. So to avoid any issues, because the moment you use numbers, whenever you have to type in an alphabet, the system will not pick. So the data type is what? Text. And then is it a primary key? The first one is a primary key. So this is the description. We are describing the data that are stored in our database. How we are getting it? So the field called index number or customer number. What type of data is it? It's a text. And then it's a primary key. Is it a required field? Yes, it's a required field. So you can see Y. Wherever you see the Y, it means yes. When you see N, it means no. Then the next one is what? First name of the customer. It's also text. Is it a primary key? No, because we can't use names as primary keys. Then the next one is for surname. It's also text and that. So that is the data dictionary. It describes the data in our database. So as we are using the data definition language to create the data, then the dictionary describes whatever data that we have in our database. All right. So what are some of the attributes of the data dictionary or data dictionary? It adheres to the data dictionary standards. So there are some standards that is supposed to be this. The primary key is supposed to be this. It is a required field. Yes, you need to select that. So the data dictionary describes that. It gives you a clear definition of what your data is supposed to adhere to. It makes it easier to share data among organizations. So we know what to share with which department, what information to be given to this unit and all that. It reduces data redundancy. As we are having this, we wouldn't repeat somebody's name twice or 3 times in our database because we have already indicated the person's customer number. So the moment we input the customer number, the name must pop up. We don't need to type the name again, or we don't need to change the customer number again. So redundancy is reduced. Increased data reliability. We can rely on that data for decision making, assist program development, and then easier modification of data. We can easily modify our data dictionary and stuff. So one function of a database management system is to be used as an interface between an application program and then the database which we have defined. So this, we have already explained these things earlier on. So this is our database, and then the database management sits in as what? An interface between all the other programs that are run or that are used to access the database. All right. Okay. So what is here that I can see? All right. Seems my writing is too up, so I can't even see what is there. All right. So 2 or more people or programs attempting to access the same record in the same database at the same time can cause a major issue, right? So for instance, I am accessing the records of my student. Dr. Nanajiman is also accessing the records. Dr. Joseph Afari is also Dr. Achia. Everybody at the same time, we are accessing these records of our students because we want to enter or we want to submit their results. So I'm entering their results on the system. They're also entering their results on the system. So there will be chaos, there will be issues, there will be troubles. So how do we go about this issue? How do we go about this issue? So we have what we call the concurrency control, which can be used to avoid this potential problem of what? 5 people, 10 people, 20 people accessing the database or updating the database at the same time. Because, for instance, if you are working on Excel in your company or in your department, you have to finish working on the Excel and then send it to the other person to also work on his part. If the 2 of you are working on the Excel at the same time, you end up having different results because the changes you implement and the changes the person will implement will not be integrated at the same time. So one person has to work with the Excel. When he or she is done, he forwards it to the next person, and the person will also work on this Excel. But in database, we can all be working at the same time, but the issue of creating these challenges or something coming up, what you did, it's not showing, and what I did is also not showing. We have what we call the concurrency control. So addressing situation where 2 or more users or applications access the same records at the same time. One of the things that can be done through the concurrency control is that we lock all other programs or application programs from accessing a record if the record is being updated or used by another program. So at my end, as I'm using the database, all the other lecturers have been locked from the database. At Nanajima Prempeh's end, the rest of us have also been locked. So whatever update that he is doing will be updated automatically. Whatever update that I'm also working on will update automatically. So at the end of the day, when you all sign out of the system, we will get the records being updated automatically without any issue. So that is what the concurrency control does. It tries to be able to control whatever is happening at this end and then whatever is happening. So I don't see. Yes, sir.
Please, I want you to go back to what you were. I was getting it very clear, and then until when you said, like onto the last part. So I understood that. For instance, referencing from when you were talking about the Excel, let's say, so Excel, let's say this one is working on it, and then this one is working on it. Yeah. So meaning that you would all have different resource. Yes. Yeah. But then with a database, when one is logged in, or let's say when one is working on it, the others become automatically blocked from using it.
Yes. That is what you see at your end, that you are the only person using, even though the other people are using. But on the system, they have been blocked. But whatever activity they are also doing will be updated automatically.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I hope you get it.
So let's say if we are all working.
I'm working. You're also working. Hassan is working. I'm also working on the database. Rebecca is also working on the database. But to the system, you have been logged. Rebecca have been logged, and I'm the only person using the system at that time. From your end also, I have been logged. Rebecca has been logged, and you're also doing your work. But when we are all done and then we sign out, the system updates whatever changes that we did automatically, without affecting anything, or without whatever I did is not showing, but it is only yours which is so. Yes, Kingsley.
Hello, sir.
Yes, sir.
So is this system also applied to especially where you have a website, for example?
Yes.
Going under maintenance.
Yes.
So you can access the platform.
Yes.
Are we saying it's the same process, concurrency control applied here?
That you cannot access the platform.
Well, yes, because the website may be going under maintenance.
No. For concurrency control, the system identifies it that there are 20 people who are working at the same time. You understand? But the system says I have logged 19 of these people out of the activities that I am performing. So out of the 20, it's only one person whose update is working at a point. You get it? And then it also logs the other people out. So when I am done and then I sign out and then you're also done, by the time all the 20 people are done with whatever they are doing, the system updates whatever you did at your end automatically. Unlike Excel, where I have to finish what I'm doing, send the Excel to you. You don't need to tell me that, oh, I'm done, so you can also go on the system to work. But the system says I have hidden all these programs. Whenever they are done, until I have updated it, whatever records they entered will not show. But I will update it myself. Do you get what the system is saying? Yes, Jonathan.
So let's say if it's the same, let's say specific, let's say a certain information that is supposed to be edited by let's say a certain kind of group, but let's say two people are working on this same thing at the same time, then how would that one to be? Because the reason why I'm asking this thing is that sometimes there is a certain kind of way that fraudulent people, like from what you are saying, and then like with my observation, it seems that that's how that this kind of criminals and fraudulent people used to actually hack into people's.
Okay, so let me state this. In an organization, right, in a department, yes, they wouldn't ask 10 people to update one record at the same time. Do you get it?
Yes, sir.
That Hassan has been assigned to go and delete this and then input this. They cannot assign the same work to me and then assign it to another person. But Hassan is supposed to work on customers from Kumasi. Rebecca is working on customers from Takrade. Kingsley is working on customers from Kumasi. We are all working on our database. You understand? But we are not doing the same work. Even though it's the same customers from our institution, but you are working on the database. It's a database in one place. But on the normal circumstance, it's supposed to be that if you are working on this Excel, right, when you are done with the Kumasi activity, send it to me. Then I also work on the Takrade guys. Then when I'm done, I'll send it to Rebecca, who will work on the Kufodia guys. Before we can have one complete Excel. Do you get it?
Yes, sir.
But yes, but in the database, we don't do that. You can be working, I can be working. But as you are working, I have been locked out from your end. Rebecca has been locked out from your end. As I'm also working, you have also been locked out from my end. You understand? So I can do my activity without interference from your end. Rebecca can do her work without interference from your end. But when we are done and then we submit, I sign out. The system now gathers whatever that we did together and then updates the system. Am I making sense?
Yes, sir. I get you.
I hope you get it now.
Yes, sir.
Yes. Yes, Gabi.
And also, I want to add up to what he mentioned that if, let's say, two people are working on the same thing, so let me use ERP for example, like any software that can be used to manage inventory. And if we are in the same office and we are working on one item, let's say item A has 50 stock on hand,
Yes.
and I've sold 10, Hassan has sold 10, and we are to book the entry separately. So when we are doing that, I think the first person that will be able to save his first will
The system
update
it. Yeah.
first. So it's like if we are doing it the same, whoever clicks on save first,
Yes.
the system will update it and then give the second person the update that now the stock is not 50, it's 40.
Yes.
So that is when the same people two people are working on the same thing. Whichever goes first will update.
Yes. So concurrency try to avoid crashes and issues and challenges. Yeah, first.
Yes, please. I want to cite a critical example.
Yes, sir.
The banking softwares, for instance. So let's assume that maybe the entire country, after Ghana, use one central system to manage its database. However, as individual branches, each of them are entering different transactions at a time or at a glance. So maybe Kumasi people will be serving customers in Kumasi. Mokola people will be serving customers within Mokola.
Yes.
Maybe Takrady will be also servicing the customers within Takrady. And at the end of the day, all these services come together to form the central database system.
Yes.
However, you realize that while each of them are doing the separate entries, the system is not being crashed. But
Yes.
and when each of them update their information, the system updates it and then
Automatically.
they,
Yes.
they,
So the system
they work on it.
accumulates all the things that have been done. And then when we are done, we sign out, it updates the system. So that is basically
Yes,
the work. Yes, that is the work of the concurrency approach, to be able to prevent crashes, issues, challenges, and whatever on our database, so that somebody should not sit down and wait for someone to finish his work before we can do. But the system says, I have blocked all other people, so do your work. I have blocked all other people, do your work. When you are done and then you submit, I will pick it up and then I'll update the system easily. That is what we term as the concurrency control. It controls whatever that goes on within the database and stuff. That is why at the end of the day, we know who did this and then who did that. When we go to the back end of our database, we know who entered these records and then the mistake that came up. So we wouldn't be pointing fingers at somebody. How we get it? If I go on the system and I change results, the system will indicate who did the changes at the time that the changes were done and all that. We can easily see that. That is the work of database. But in Excel, sometimes everybody can make changes and nobody will know who did this change. Could change the amount of money that he got, you wouldn't know. Like we're all working on the Excel. I don't know who did this, but in database we can easily, because of the concurrency control, it indicates the activities that have been done by which individual and at what point the person did that and all that. All right, so we have explained this already. So manipulating our database provides, is somebody's hands up? Okay, Festus, I thought you were. So database provides reports and then important information for customers and then for the organization or the employees or the managers of the organization. So companies uses the database management system to manage the database. All right, as we have mentioned, databases can use query by example to be able to generate report. So I will show you how it is. Okay, let's go there. Let me show you. So this is query by example. So we have this relationship: table A, table B, table C. The table A is what order details, table B is what orders, table C is what order price table. All right, and then the relationship, and then we have even the fourth one, which is customers. So when we come down here, we have all the information here, the fields, the tables, the sort, and all that. So we want to select which information do we want to have in our report. So when you go into the order table, we have different information. Maybe we have the order ID, the product ID, the quantity, and all that. What do we want to add to our report? We want to find out the quantity of the order ID, and then the next one, we want to see the customer who made the order, who places the order. So the customer ID, customer first name, maybe customer last name. All right, so here we select them. So you click on the box and then you tick the box, whichever information that you want to have in your report. So query by example, you indicate which ones I want to add. So you take this, you take that, you take that, you take that, and then you click on OK. So the moment you click on OK, this table will pop up. So these are the information that you selected. That is the query by example. So they are visual, pictorial. You can see the picture there, and then you indicate which one you want to add to your report. So for instance, I want the student records. So the student record has the student ID, student first name, student last name, student gender, student exam score, student class score, student tutor score, student address, student location, and all that. Which information do I need for my report? I just need the student ID, student number, student ID, student first name, student last name, student class score, student exam score, student tutor score. These are them. So I just take them and then leave the rest. Then when I click on OK, I will have a report of the student index number, student first name, last name, class score, exam score, and then the tutor score. That is what I need. The rest of the information, the gender, whatever, I don't need those information, so I leave them out. So you click by selecting which example you want to add to. So that is what we call the query by example. So the visual approach to developing data queries or requests. You make a request by selecting, ticking the boxes, and then indicating what you want to have. Data manipulation language. So we use the data manipulation language to manipulate, as we use the data definition language to define the data, describe the data, and then design or create our database. We also use the data manipulation language to what? Manipulate the database and generate reports. There are specific language provided with a database management systems. It allows users to what? Access and then modify the data, make queries, and then generate reports, as I've explained. So example of the data manipulation language is what? The query by example, or SQL, using SQL to do that. So we will have examples of that. So one is the query by example or SQL. What is SQL? What's the full meaning of SQL? Yes, SQL. Who can tell us?
Structured query language.
Structured query language. So the language is structured. A language that is structured. You query the system by following a procedure, step-by-step procedure, to ask questions. So we query our database, or we ask questions from our database. The database is big. You don't need all the data in the database. All you need is student for the procurement department. That is all that you need. So you query it by following the step-by-step approach to get your results from the database. So there are specific purpose programming language that are used for accessing and manipulating relational database data. So it's conformed to what we call the ACID or the ACID properties, which is atomicity, the minute, the basic data within the database that comes together. The consistency, it has to follow a consistent procedure approach. Isolation, it's isolated from other programs that are used in the database, and then it's durable. So ACID, it follows it conforms to what we call the ACID in database. When we get to second semester, we will go deeper into all these things, and then we'll explain them as we have our practicals. So as I said, next semester you need to get a laptop, because we'll be having practicals for the semester. All right. Guarantees the database transactions are processed reliably. So when we use the structured query language, it guarantees that the data transactions that goes on within our database are reliable. The processes are reliable. We know that whatever result that comes out are genuine or clean data or records that we can use for decision making. It ensures the integrity of data in a database. All right. So the data manipulation language, which we have explained, the commands that are used to manipulate the database, right? They are the commands that are used. So first, we have to select. So we are selecting certain information from a table that we have. We have a big table. We need some information. The table contains the example that I just gave you: student ID, student first name, student last name, student class score, student exam score, the tutor, student gender, student address, student location, student whatever. These are all part of the table that we have. And we just want to select some information from this table. We don't need all the information. First, we can use the query by example to just click and then select, add them to whatever we need. We can also use the SQL to do that. So first, we have to select. There you can see there's a star. The star here means something. We'll talk about it. So select from employee table. So for instance, employee table or student table, because I've given you a student example. Select from student table where student course is equal to something. Maybe what's the name of this course? BIS, Business Information System, where student course is equal to Business Information System. And the table contains all the courses that you are offering. Okay, you let me use the example here so you can understand. You don't get confused. Yeah, Gabriel.
So I want to understand. SQL is a language and MySQL is the software. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay.
So that's the platform that I use. We run the SQL on to be able to manipulate the language or be able to manipulate your database and then perform your function. So we are selecting from employee table where job classification or job description is equal to what? C1 or C2. So in the table we have C1, C2, C3, C4, C5 up to maybe C10, which is the job classification. C2 is a group of people. C1 will be a group of people. So we are selecting, the star here means all. So we are selecting all employees from the employee table whose job description or job classification is equal to C2. So it means everybody who belongs to the category C2 will be selected from the table. All right. So this will output all employees who have a job classification of C2. Right. So the star here tells that the database system to include all columns from the employee table in the results. So we need all columns of the employee. So whether it is employee number, employee address, we are including all in our final results. And in manipulating your database, there are certain categories that you have to go to. First is what? Selecting. Second is what? Projecting. Third is joining. And then fourth is what? Linking. But the three are the common ones. The linking is something that we don't often look at. but selecting, eliminating rows according to certain criteria. So the rows are what? What is a row in a database table? In a database table, what's a row? A row can also be termed as what?
Is it the fields?
No. Columns are fields.
Okay. Then it will be the attributes.
The attributes are fields also.
Hey.
So a row. We didn't mention this.
That record.
Records, thank you. Fidawas, thank you very much. So records are rows, and then fields are what? Columns. We did mention this last week. All right. So eliminating some records from our table. So the table is big. We want to eliminate. The table is made up of what? Account. Hey, do we have accountable computer here? No. So we have transport student, procurement student, supply chain student. So we want to eliminate transport and procurement, supply chain student from the table. All the records of all the transport students, we want to eliminate them from this table. So we can remove them. That is selected. So we only select from this table where student is equal to what? Procurement student. So the system will select only procurement student and then eliminate transport student from the table. I hope you are getting it. That is selection. You will select the ones that you need. And then projecting, eliminating columns in a table. So column can also be referred to as what? A field. All right. So we want to eliminate some fields. So we have a big table. We have the field called index number, the field called first name, the field called last name, the field called gender, address. We want to eliminate the address, the gender, and only keep student number, student first name, student last name only. So we can project and then eliminate that from the table. And then have another table which does not have the gender, and then so that when we are grading, we wouldn't be using the gender. Oh, this is a female, I want to give her A. This is a male, I want to give him F. No. Because if you are using only student numbers, I wouldn't know whose index number is this, whose index number is that. All right. Then joining, combining two or more tables. We have done that before. We did joining two tables together, table A, table B. When there's a relationship, then we can join them together. And then combining two or more tables through common data attributes to form a new table with only the unique data attributes. Right. So maybe we just need certain fields. Then we can select this field from table A and select this field from table B, and then join them together to form a new table. That is the linking two tables with specific fields that we want to add to our tables. All right, so this is a typical example. So here we have, it's a little bit tiny, but when you check from your end, you can open it up and then see. So the original table is here, where we have the code, then we have the description, and then what? The price, right? So this is one table, and then the results, selecting all fields. So here we are selecting all fields. So we will still have the code, the description, and then the price. So when we come to the next one, where we are selecting only price. So select only price, which is less than 100 Rand or 100 Ghana cedis yards. So here we are selecting prices that are less than 100 and then leave the ones that are not. So we just look at it. We can see 79, 80 something or 98, and then 18. The other ones which are 200 and something, we don't select them. So we are selecting certain records that we need, right? And then here we are selecting the code, this. So you can have only one record here. And then projecting. The original table is here, and then we are projecting the price field only. So only price field will come, or only student index number. The rest of the information about the student will not show in the new table that we have created. So basically, that is how we use the SQL to do selection. Select from where this is equal to this, and then this must be that. All right, so popular relational database management system that we use. So there are several, I did mention some of them. These are some of the systems that we use to run our database to help us to be able to manipulate the database and make changes. MySQL, Service, Oracle, and all those ones are the system that we use to run our databases. Access. So next semester we will be practicing using Access, and then as we go further we will be using the SQL for our activities. Your database stored on a so we have the data as a service. So when we say data as a service, it's a database that are stored on a service provider's service. So GCTU, for instance, we don't have money to have a database room where we have big service and then we have our database running on this service. But we can purchase a platform on another company's service so they can keep our database for us. So maybe we contact MTN or KPM or whichever company. So we need a platform to run our database. It's okay, we can rent it for you. Every year you pay this amount of money. We will manage it for you here. And then whenever you need information, you contact us, we'll provide you with this information. So the database accessed by server or service subscribers over the internet. So we can only access that on our internet. When we are in the office, we can access our database from KPMB or from MTN using the internet. We connect and then we can be able to have access to our database. So the database administration handled by the data service provider. So here the company does not employ people to manage the database, but rather it is the service provider who will provide data administration and everything for the database. So we need information, we just call them and then they will provide us, or they will give us access to whatever that we need on our database so we can work. So the amount of money you have to spend getting people, whatever that you need to have and all that, we take them off from whatever that is happening. The database as a service advantage. It eliminates the installation, maintenance, and the monitoring of in-house databases, as I just described. You don't need to employ people to manage the database. You don't need to maintain the database. You don't need to do any installation. All this money can be used for other things. So the service provider will be providing the services and maintenance and everything for you while you relax in your company and then enjoy your activity. All right, so the database administrator. Who is the database? A database administrator is a skilled and then a trained professional, or IS or IT professional, somebody who has the skills in managing and then maintaining the database. Basically, they hold discussions with the business users of the database. They try to understand what you need, how you can be able to use the database, how can you access the database, how can you provide services, how can you be able to do this and that. So they hold meetings and then discuss how the users or the business users can be able to use the database. So they need to understand your needs so that they can be able to provide you with the data that you need for your activities. Then they apply their database programming language skills to craft a set of databases to meet your needs. And then they test and then evaluate the database to see whether it's working perfectly. And then they monitor the database performance. How is it performing? Are they working effectively? Are customers able to use it? Is it slow? Is it fast? When they log in, how are they able to maneuver their way through? And then all that. And then they implement changes to improve on the responses or the response time for the user queries. So as a user goes into the database and begin to ask certain questions in the database, how fast will the customer be able to get this information? Assures data is secure. So they ensure that this data is protected, it's secure from any intruders and unauthorized people. So the database administrator or the data administrator. This person is not supposed to be a technical person. He's not supposed to be a skillful person or IT skillful person. No, but it's just a non-technical position responsible for defining and then implementing consistent principle for variety of what data issues. So their role is to gather data for the organization, make sure the data that we need are available within the organization. So when they get the data, they make sure the database administrators will have the data and they can just integrate the data into the database. So for this office, they are not supposed to be IT specialists. All they need is to be able to understand data, use the data to support the business needs of the company. So some of the responsibilities of a data administrator: defining and implementing consistent principles for a variety of data issues, how to get the data, how to generate, how to clean the data, and all that. It is their role. Setting data standards and then data definitions that apply across all the databases in an organization. So they make sure this is the standard of how to use this data. They implement that, and they ensure that customers or employees follow these principles in order to be able to work. So in selecting your database management software, there are certain things that you need to consider. Certain characteristics that you need to consider or come up with whenever that you are trying to select a database management system. The first thing is the database size. What is the size of your database? Is your database so big? Is it going to expand? Because GCT, when we started the university, like the distance program, we don't have a lot of students. But in the next 10 or 20 years, the distance program population will increase. So whenever you are selecting a database, you need to be able to consider all that, the size of your database, that the database will increase at a point in time, and then it's also going to have some kind of major impact and stuff. All right, so that is it. So the size of the database cost, the cost of the database. If the database is going to be too expensive to maintain, then you have to go in for what? The database as a service platform. So you have to consider whatever that it is. Then also consider what the concurrency or the concurrent users. At a point, how many people should be using the database at a point? Must it be 40 people at a time? Must it be 10 people at a time? Must it be 50 people? You need to consider that. Because at a point, you need to have about 200 people using the database at a point. Performance. You need to also consider the performance of your database. The performance, how fast, how quickly it is. The integration. Can you integrate existing programs on your database? You need to consider all. And then the vendor. So if your vendor will be there today and then tomorrow the vendor will not be in existence, then that will be a major issue. So you need to consider all this before you can go in and select your database system. Data warehouse. Data warehouse is just like a warehouse, the normal warehouse that we have. So all the transactions that goes on within the organization, so internal records or data, external data that we gather, the transaction, the day-to-day transaction, which we did mention, the transaction processing systems that are used to gather the day-to-day activities of the organization, right? So this data are being integrated and saved in a warehouse. We clean the data, we transform, we clean, and make the data usable, and then we keep this data in our database. So that is the data warehouse. Because when you go to a company's warehouse, they have different things that are kept, but they are arranged nicely, well organized. So when we need milk, we know where to go to pick the milk. If we need shoes, we know where the shoes are kept, right, and all that. So that is basically the data warehouse. We clean all the data that is coming, because not every data is needed in our database. So we need to clean the data to ensure the integrity and then consistency of this data that we have. So basically that is it. We clean the data, we extract the data, and then we get it into our database, and then we can query the data using the query and then analysis tools to query the data. So we can have extremely rich and then useful information. So whenever we need, so we just need information about Gabriel Apple, we can get information because the data has been cleaned. And what we have is just distance student records. And within the distance student, we can use the query language to query the data to get records of just one person within the database. And we have what we call the data mining. So information analysis tools that, so this is basically it here, the query and then analysis tools. These are the mining. We use these tools to mine the data, to select or to look for certain or specific information. Like just the example I was giving, looking for Gabriel Kwesi Apple. Only the information about him. How do we get that? We need to use the mining tools, analytics tools, to be able to analyze and understand what we need. Or sometimes we can analyze our data, the database that we have, and then find out what are some of the trends, what are some of the challenges, what are some of the opportunities, what are some of the weaknesses in our company, so we can be able to resolve that. When you go to the warehouse, you can see there are shortages of certain items. So based on that, you can be able to improve on your performance. Oh, let's add more milk, let's add more shoes. The shoes, we need to add this ones and this ones and that ones to our database. All right. Okay, so basically that is it for the data mining. So the data mining helps us to improve on certain activities like the customer retention. The moment you know your customers' preferences, you always contact them whenever you have the services or the products, and so you can be able to retain your customers. Identify cross-selling opportunities. It helps you to also be able to identify cross-selling. This person came to do first degree in this. He might be interested in this masters. Then you contact them and they introduce your masters, and you might get them. Manage marketing campaigns. So you know where to market more, where to spend your campaign money to be able to get more customers. Market, channel, and then pricing analysis will also help you to be able to analyze the market and be able to give prices. How much should we sell this? What's the market price now? How do we go about it? How do we do this? And all that. So we can be able to do that. Customer segmentation analysis, like one-to-one marketing. It helps you to be able to identify customers and then their preferences, so you can be able to market certain product to these customers. We have what we call the association rules algorithm, which are used to find association between items in the database or in your data. Charlie, guys, hold on. Let me just pick this call. Hello, Kelly. Yeah, afternoon. I'm having a class. Why? What's the issue? Oh, I told the HOD that I have a class. Yeah, I told him. Distance student. We have a class on Saturday. Yes. All right. Thank you. All right. Sorry, we have a department meeting, so they are calling me to join. All right. So you can be able to do that using, and then we have the association rules algorithm, which are used to find association between items in the data. All right. So for instance, if someone comes to buy X, how likely is this person also going to be interested in buying cheese? So if somebody did procurement, how likely that in future he might be interested in taking on maybe IS, information systems, at the master's level. So you try to use the association algorithm to match the items, and then you can be able to advertise those programs to these people, so that in future when they come in, they can easily come in and buy. Data mining tools are used to help users to find answers to questions they have not thought to ask. So the data mining tools are the SQLs and all those tools that we use to mine, or we use to what? Query the database. So we can have answers to questions that we didn't even think of asking or planning. All right. So data management. How do we manage our data? Because we know the data is very, very important. So it's very, very important for us to manage this data in our database, so that we can be able to improve on customer performances, be able to provide better services, and be able to serve our customers well. So when we talk about data management, they are the integrated set of functions that are defined, or that defines the processes by which data is obtained. How do we obtain this data? How do we certify this data fit for use? How do we store this data? And then how do we secure and then process the data? So they are the functions, the set of functions that defines the process by which we can obtain data, access data, describe the data as this data is fit for use in the organization. Because some data, or some of the data that we have, are not fit for use. We need to disguise them. So how do we describe that this data is fit for use? It is the management approach that will help us. So they ensure data accessibility, reliability, timeliness, meet the data users' needs. All right. So the data management will help to ensure that customers are able to access the data at the time they need the data. The data is reliable. You can use the data for whichever activity they want to use it for. And they have it timely. The time they need the data, they will have access to the data. Then we have what we call the data governance. Governing the data, protecting the data. Who is supposed to be responsible for what, at what point in time, and at which point must the person use the data, and all that. So when we talk about data governance, it defines the roles, responsibilities, and then the processes that ensures data can be trusted and used by the entire organization. It ensures people identify and in place who are responsible for fixing and then preventing issues with data. So we know who is in charge of this. Like in your class, we know who is the class rep, who is the assistant class rep. So if the lecturer is not coming, who should we call? If the lecturer gives us assignment and then we are supposed to submit and the portal is not open, who must we talk to? First, we need to talk to our class rep. Our class rep will have to call the lecturer or call the distance office for them to be able to. So responsibilities are assigned. So we are able to identify who is responsible for this and at what point are they responsible for that. I hope you are here.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, Suleimana.
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Sir, I have some few observations to clarify, sir.
All right, sir.
Yes, sir. The first one has to do with privacy of the individual whose data has been captured. One, for instance, MTN Ghana, they have our data that we use for internet purpose and transacting business. So how come that a third party is able to get our data, hack into their system, and then use it to defraud us, call us, and behave as if it's...
Let me address this issue quickly. Most of the time, they don't hack into their system, but
Yes,
they
sir.
sell the information to the customer, to these guys. They sell some of the information to third parties to make their money. You understand? Without
Yes, sir.
consulting you. That is one of the topics that I think one of the groups will be presenting on that when it comes to security and that. A group will be talking about all these things. That do companies have the right to even give our information out without our consent? But that is what is happening in our country and in most part of in European countries. If you give a customer's information to a third party without the consent of the person, you can be sued. But here, nothing happens. We don't follow any order. Because at this point, the person is even richer than you or the company. So the moment you begin to complain, it goes to court, they go and pay. And the whole country is corrupt. They take the money and then you, the person whose information is out there, you're complaining. You will rather find yourself in trouble. You know? So sometimes these guys don't hack into. But
Yes,
they
sir.
sell it to other companies. And through that, the information is leaked everywhere.
Yes, sir.
Yes. So,
Yes,
because if your information that you give to GTUC is out
yes,
there
sir.
to a third party, it doesn't mean they hack into our system. But probably the school sold that part of the information. They think they don't need it, but they can give it out. Like your phone numbers. The
Yes, sir.
school is going to have an election, and then a political party comes to you that we need the contact of. And because they have political party members on campus, they go and then lobby and then they give them the contact of all the students. And you'll be there, and then the political party will be sending you messages. Where did you get my number from? Oh, dear
Yes,
GTUC
sir.
student
Yes.
or dear GTUC staff. How did you know I'm a GTUC staff? They didn't hack into the system. They spoke to people and the people gave the information out. You get it? So the security is there, but
Yes, sir.
sometimes the companies try to sometimes give the information out.
Okay,
Yes,
sir.
Gabi.
Sir,
That is why sometimes it's good to read terms and conditions because all these things are in
It
there
states.
that we hardly read. So
Yes.
you end up, so if for example, if you take it to court, you might end up losing because it's
Yes.
in, but we didn't read.
They will tell you that the terms and conditions stated that we will be using your information for our personal activities and you agree to. You see, sometimes these guys, they are wicked. Terms and conditions, 5 pages.
You can't even read.
Why should I sit there and read 5 pages? Because I just want to open a WhatsApp account. It needs me reading 5 pages. Oh. So sometimes we get
And
bored and then we just
sometimes
ignore
even
them.
the applications that we use on our phones,
Yes,
because
most of
sometimes
them.
yes,
we are in
sir.
a hurry, they will tell you
They sell our
the app
information out.
need permission to read your email, do this.
Yes.
But because you need it, you just click on yes,
Ignore
yes,
and
yes.
then just move on. That's the
Yes, sir.
issue.
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Sir, the second one has to do with the total cost of ownership.
Yes, total cost of ownership.
Yes, sir. We know that the total cost of ownership, buying the equipment for, let's say, a company or a school to house those data is very huge. All players like the banking sector, mining, and other stuff could afford that. But smaller sole proprietor and staff, if they also want to go through this thing, how sustainable is it? If or there are cheaper way to do that, sir?
Yeah, sometimes companies try to, have a minimal cost of something, so they can just contact maybe a small scale company or developers to just develop something for them that they think it's manageable, where they can own the whole platform or the whole system. That is why some companies also feel like they can't, or sometimes they join hands together so they can own that platform or the system, which can help them too. So about 10 companies are using this platform for their activities because they can't have the total ownership of the platform, but they join hands and then they use it for their activities and stuff. Sometimes they just have to go in for cloud computing where they pay for the services platforms and then they use because they can't afford to own the whole system. So they just go in for service, maybe platform as a service, system as a service, hardware as a service, and then they just use it for their activities. So they can be able to run their business. Like these small scale businesses, most of them are using these platforms and stuff. They pay for it and then they use it for their activities because they can't afford to pay for all these platforms and stuff.
Yes, sir. Sir, final one.
Yes, sir.
Last 2 weeks, someone was able to hack to a colleague of mine's WhatsApp account.
WhatsApp account, yeah.
WhatsApp account, yes, sir. And apparently, I don't know how they are very clever. They watch the people that we communicate much with, and he
Yes.
said that in fact, he impersonated that he is the person,
Yes.
and he's in crisis. He needed some money to
Be sent to
sort out
somebody.
certain issues, and then we'll revert back
Needed
some
just 2
few days.
days.
So they sent to about quite like 12 members. So we saw there was a missing link. So we contacted each other. So the person requested 4,000 from me, 2,000 from somebody, 1,000 cedis from somebody, and 500 in that order. So as we doing this management, data management and other
IT programs, yeah.
IT stuff. So what safety precaution we need to take, and what do we need to look out for in cases where such things emerges?
You know, so some in the case of you, the user, you understand, most of these links that they send, sometimes the link just pop up on a group page. I understand.
Yes,
You
sir.
just send a link on a group page, and then quickly you want to click on, and then for instance, when you come and say, this one has done this, my mama has gone to steal some, I won't even click on it. I don't see the need for that. But people like reading on and fan crop so clicking over here. You just receive a link, you don't actually know where it's even coming from. The person on that page, I don't have the person's number. Then you want to click. The moment you click, then they have control over your system. And these WhatsApps are third-party platforms, so you don't have much control. Yes, you just have to play it carefully. And then on the other hand, too, you the receiver, you know this person that you've been talking to for some months, he has never come to ask of money.
Yes, sir.
In a rush. So the moment you see such messages, you don't even bother. Yeah, because I know there are some people that the person has never. Then I'm receiving a message from the person. Oh, I need 4,000, and you have to send it to this number for me. And looking at the name Ukraine account and say, ah, nipa with the only nipa BC. What's the relationship?
Yes, sir.
Send the money to this number, and I'll pay you tomorrow. Ah, if you have money to pay tomorrow, why in the demand for money today? And you need 4,000. Who will need 4,000 and will just send you a text message without calling you on phone?
Yes, sir.
You get it? Yeah, so we have to be careful. The more you are learning to protect yourself, the more these hackers are also learning a way of also breaking through.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, so people are sitting down, going to school on this. His main aim to be in the university is to go and learn how to hack into systems. Yeah, and people are professors. Those guys, some are professors.
Yes, sir.
Big
Gabriel is good as well.
You see? Yes. Gabriel, so maybe we have to go and contact Gabriel. Maybe he was the one who was sending the messages.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Thank you, sir.
All right. So as we end, so this is basically the data governance, and then the different data management approaches, and then who's supposed to be responsible for whichever. So data development, who's supposed to be in charge? The data architecture management, the data quality management, the data management, the document, and then content management. So each of this we have assigned a role. So the moment there is an issue at the data development level, we know who to contact, who was responsible, why is it not working. So that is the governance, so we can be able to manage our data in our database. Because if there's no rule, there's no class rep. Imagine there's no class rep, there's no leader. When you come to class and the lecturer is not coming, you just be sitting there online, not 2 hours, bear no credit. Because there's nobody to contact and say. Then you start asking questions. But where's the lecturer? But who is coming? Why is the lecturer not here? How is the... You'll be complaining. But the moment there's a responsibility assigned, we can contact the person quickly. Gabi, Charlie, Joseph, Charlie, what's going on? Why is the lecturer not in? Charlie, contact Sir Kelvin quickly. Charlie, that thing is not recorded. Is the class being recorded? Charlie, Joshua, we are calling the Joes and then the Gabis to organize and make sure things are working. Charlie, there's some snare you leaders, put your head together. What are we going to do? Finding solutions, and that is, there's a responsibility who to contact and who to be blamed when it comes to managing the data in our database systems and in our organization. So basically that is it for our database. And as I said, next semester we will have a lot of practical sessions, and so we will be going through all these database and then understand how these things work and how to query the data and how to use the query by example and all that to be able to get our information and stuff. All right, so any question before we will discuss about our presentation? I think next week what I will do is maybe use the class for preparation. All right, so when we meet next week we wouldn't have any class at all, but we will discuss about the presentation.
Yes, sir.
Is that okay?
Yes, sir.
So we will just, the 2 hours or the 1 hour 30 minutes, we will just discuss about each of the groups, the presentation, and then maybe we will just use some few minutes to talk about the software and hardware that we did, and then we will be through, so that when we meet in class, we have next week. Do you have 2 more meetings before the face-to-face class, or only one? Next week Saturday is what?
Only one.
Only one. Next week is 2nd, and then the following will be 9th. Yeah. So next week when we meet, so I have sent Joseph a textbook that contains all the topics that you'll be presenting on, and I believe he has shared the textbook with you guys.
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Yes, sir. Yes,
So
sir.
all your topics are in there. Prepare your slides. I said the slides supposed to be, because of our time, slides supposed to be 15 to 20 slides, and you need to talk about key things. Please don't go deeper, like we're talking about technical things that you yourself you don't understand. No, the surface things that you think are relevant to our course, because guys are first years, so you don't need to go deep. So your topic, don't go and be talking about complex things. Because I don't know that you are ready, you don't understand. No, but look at the surface things that you think can be meaningful to the class, and you put them in your slides. You come and present, and that will be it for that. So I believe the security people will tell us most of the attacks on our computers and all that, and then they will tell us how to overcome them, ethical and security challenges when it comes to information systems. They will tell us more, and then explain and give us ways to manage these risks and challenges in our information system. All right, so that is it for today. We are done. I believe you have the slides on this.
Yes, sir. You have it.
All right, so thank you very much. It's past 1. Tell us you can have 30 minutes break because it's afternoon, so you can eat and prepare for your next class at 1:30.
Thank you, sir.
Yes, sir. Thank you,
We'll
sir.
meet next weekend, same time, same venue. Enjoy the rest of your day.
Yes,
Yes,
sir.
sir.
Yes, sir. Good night, sir.
All right.
Aye.
It's already, I said we are not meeting again, so good night. No. It's
Yankasa na 9 na yadawi.
Aye. All right, bye.
Right, sir.